Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It is Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. They said it could not be done, but the 2024 NFL season is over. The longest sports season in American history, 17 months. Kickoff for the 2024 NFL season was in July 2023. It's been a long time. 39-game season. We saw, we conquered at the Super Bowl, New Orleans Radio Row. Thank you so much for listening to us every day. Thank you so much to all of our guests. And thank you so much to the Chiefs. They brought back analysis. You can finally say things like, again, like, I don't know, maybe the Chiefs should have a running game, or I don't know, maybe the Chiefs should have a left tackle, or I don't know, maybe the Chiefs should have a single wide receiver, or I don't know, maybe the Chiefs should look good ever. So I just want to start by saying everyone who said the two-time defending Super Bowl champions who went 15-1 in games that mattered, who were never threatened by the Texans and Bills, they were actually bad. You were right after all. They were actually bad. Right, guys? All right?
I mean, I don't know.
I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff to talk about from the game. The score bug, the haltime show.
We're going to get to that in a minute.
But just, so much to talk about as a Mahomes backer. Did Doritos do a commercial? There was a Baja Blast commercial.
Yeah, the Baja Blast
was made in MS Paint.
Denny, Chiefs actually bad. You were right all along. Turns out it was fraud.
It just took a whole year for that to play out. They finally faced an opponent for whom against whom they could not get away with it. They couldn't. On a serious note, basically, the Eagles are the best in the league at shutting down the short passing game, and that's all the Chiefs have. So there you go.
And the intermediate passing game, and the long passing game, and the run.
Was there any universe where it – so we were going to talk about the score bug, but we're going to talk about the game. We'll talk about the score bug later. Was there any universe in this game, within the contours of this game, where they might have gotten away with it? Because the first half, to me, had a feel of like the Eagles letting the Chiefs hang around.
Yeah.
And it's like without the pick six, I think especially, I could have seen the Chiefs like bluffing their way into maybe not winning, but at least having like a Brady style honorable loss. Like, people are saying Brady never lost a Super Bowl except for the 3 that he did. They could have maybe had a more honorable loss, but it was just like, no, it was everything. You don't even usually see one thing go wrong for the Chiefs. Like, the game was already over, but when DeAndre Hopkins, which fare thee well, DeAndre, you had a good career, dropped that pass, that was like the emphatic, like, all right, not even an honorable comeback is happening.
Can we talk? I actually want to ask Kyle something real quick right after this, but can we talk about that drop with Hopkins? Because I couldn't figure out, like, on first blush when it first happened, I couldn't tell if it was behind him or too far in front of him, if he got one hand on it or two, if it just hit him in the body. And then on replay, I still can't understand what exactly was going on. Did he lose it in the lights? Did he not know it was there? It was the most confounding drop I've ever seen. And this is from a guy who never drops the ball. Whatever you say, about his separation or whatever in his old age, that's something different. But he never drops the ball. After that, you're right. Chris Jones, by the way, knew it. He falls to the ground
in prayer
after that. And that's what every Chiefs fan should have done, fall to the ground, because at that point, if you can't complete that, it's completely over. Anyway, I wanted to ask Kyle, was the Super Bowl just a replay, do you think, of the Bucs defeat of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
No, this is way worse.
Nope. Yeah,
way
worse. Okay.
So much worse.
It was.
Mahomes played. I mean, he had some bad moments in that Bucs game where, like, he was getting like a little bit of seeing ghost. The pressure was getting to him. He also made some incredible plays, and his ding dong receivers just dropped them in the end zone when they hit him in the helmet. I mean, I believe it was Damian. Maybe it was Darrell Williams. I forget which one.
It was Darrell.
Mahomes makes the diving throw, and it just drills him in the helmet. There are a few other bad plays from the team there. We talked about all postseason where every Chiefs game was like, did you really feel threatened? And this was the opposite. 15 minutes in, I was like, the Chiefs can't do this. They don't have an explosive.
Well, remember, I texted you Jover, like, I think like 6 minutes into the game. And then you hit me with a Fell For It Again award.
And then 2 minutes later, I know the exact play it was. It was they go down 17, and Andy Reid's like, time to dial up Isaiah Pacheco. 3-yard loss, 3-yard gain. Terrible sack.
To be frank, they did need to do that, but like, Well, they did. They couldn't. It was just like not even
It was not going to happen. If they had a good running back, sure, maybe you try and stabilize the bleeding with a decent drive, but like it was frankly an embarrassing back-to-back calls where you're like, I know how we can screw over Pat. Worse than the first 15 minutes of this game is putting him in 3rd and long against a team that has shown a complete ability to shut down our passing game when they don't have to bring pressure, when they don't have to blitz specifically, not bring pressure. Let's put him in 3rd and 9. Like, the game was over right there. And you texted your It's Jover a minute or two before that. I made fun of you and immediately had to rescind.
You did immediately rescind. And
I was like, I thought we'd get one more. I thought we had one more in them, and we did.
So yeah, to Denny's question, the Bucs game, Mahomes died a samurai's death. Like,
he
there
did.
was pure honor in that one. Nothing but honor. This one was the first time I ever saw Mahomes just like, man, his face just exuded like, yeah, well, we lost. And it was like the first score. It was like, it's over. Like, not a single ounce of joy. Which, okay, I'm going to bring to my larger point of this game where it almost felt like the Chiefs, I'm really projecting emotions here. It's almost like the Chiefs knew, like, all right, it's like they knew they were getting away with it. And that they finally played an opponent like, all right, I get all that stuff I said, like, it's just going to matter. No left tackle, no running game. No true like receiver core. Xavier Worthy was coming on late in the season, but like it was like a team that knew it had been smoke and mirrorsing, and it's like, oh, dog, Nick Sirianni just threw the mirror in the trash.
Yeah,
and, like,
Yeah, I mean, that was
real
another
bad.
weird thing is like Andy Reid, like I always expect him to come into these spots where like, sure, ultimately that Bucs game, like they lost. They were outmatched by the fact that they just did not have an offensive line that could protect him. This Bucs pass rush was not as good as the Eagles, but the disadvantage was just as great in that game, essentially, maybe a little less, frankly, but it was really palpable.
The Chiefs line was worse in that game, which
it
was
was so
kind of
worse 'cause
scary.
they entered with so many injuries. The Bucs defensive line wasn't as good. Chiefs line was also worse.
But the
in
Bucs
that
D
game.
line was very good, though.
It was very good. Yeah. This was a different level, though. And it seemed like even in that game, even in some of the other Chiefs losses or Chiefs games throughout this year, where I'm like, man, this Chiefs team sucks. Like Andy Reid came up with some special stuff. He came up with ways to pull out games that I didn't think he should, or make games closer like that. Like, frankly, that Bucs game where they were so outmatched on the line. Like we said, they died an honorable death there. It wasn't that close, but it was not like this. I thought Andy Reid, frankly, got out coached in this one as well. He kind of entered the game as if they also were like, well, we did it, boys. We made the Super Bowl with a team that really shouldn't make the Super Bowl, and that was it. And they carried the torch no further. Everyone's to blame, but I also thought Andy Reid came into this game like they just didn't even seem to try to find a counterpunch.
Two points to that. So I've seen a lot of people saying Andy Reid had a bad game, didn't do a good job, blah blah blah, which. In the context of that game, he didn't. But I feel like what it actually did highlight is kind of what you just hinted at, Kyle, is how good of a job he did do all year. Because you look at this collection of players, like just was not a Super Bowl offense. Even with Mahomes, it just was not a Super Bowl team, which was kind of like the fear all along. This is what we were joking about for months. Like, I mean, Chiefs, I know there were, but they're just going to win. You know, like that's what that was kind of all about. Just a better coach, better prepared, better executing team. Just finally ran into an opponent where it did not matter. I think it really did just highlight, though, how well Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have been masking the issues during the regular season. This finally met an opponent where no amount of smoke and mirrors was going to work. I think the one thing I would say that he probably should have, especially considering how lethal the Eagles' interior pass rush was, which I guess I'm assuming Andy Reid knew about. Like maybe you should have your all-pro left guard back at left guard and not at left tackle. And it's basically easier to scheme up stuff on the outside at tackle to slow down a pass rush than it is at guard. Yeah. Like if you don't have a good guard, you're just getting caved in. And like they had no chance at a running game. They already had very little chance at a running game to begin with because it's Kareem Hunt and like really diminished Isaiah Pacheco. That was the one like thing I really second guessed. Like, yeah, Joe Thuney should have been at guard where he's an all-pro. And not a tackle, and just figure it out with the rookie at left tackle or whatever, like max protect. But like the interior line is getting just annihilated every single play.
Anytime you have a team that can send four and never blitz, I believe they did not blitz once. The Eagles did not blitz.
They did not.
Any team that can do that and get consistent pressure is going to be hard to beat. Now you combine that with an elite secondary that just absolutely, especially snuffs out the short passing game. And you saw that early in the game where they were trying to get away with it with those little dink and dunks to Kelce and Gray.
Sorry to interrupt. This is actually the play I knew it was over. And I think it was the first play of the game. It was where Mahomes drops back and he actually has time. It was like the only drop back he had time. And you can see he drops his back shoulder like he is going to uncork a Mahomes missile. Yeah. And I am so excited. I'm like, we are getting it, baby. And someone is down there deep. Obviously, the screen is a little more focused on the line and Mahomes. Someone's down there deep. This is going to be awesome. And then you just see him prop his shoulder up and chuck one down to Juju 2 yards downfield. And I was like, what do you do if your line actually gets protection against this really good Eagles pass rush? If they give you 5 seconds and you have the chance to uncork it and you just look down and everyone is blanketed and your option is a 2-yard no yak throw to Juju, I felt quite bad at that point. And I think it was like the first Chiefs drop back of the game. Maybe it was like the first one.
I think the very first play was an 11-yard first down to Juju, actually. I think it was because for a while, at some point in the game, Kevin Burkhardt said their only first down was the first play of the game.
Okay, it was the play after that later. Or the first play of the next drive.
Yeah, it was a little later. I know what you're talking about, though. By the way, Mahomes' EPA per drop back in that game would have qualified as the lowest in the NFL, lower than guys like DTR this season.
It was the second lowest of his entire career. Denny, you were in the middle of a long.
Sorry,
No. I know. I was just saying, like that's always the formula. Like it's not tricky to be able to stop a team like the Chiefs. Is that you just pressure Mahomes with 4.
Not tricky. It's sure only one team did it all year, but it's not.
And but and what I'm saying is, on Radio Row, I wish I was more confident. I wish Pat had not censored me. And I wish that I would have just said, look, they're just going to do what the Bucs did and it's over. And I should have said that and I didn't.
The reason you didn't say it, Denny, is because everyone was spooked. It's because there was like a pervasive feeling that even Drew Dinsick, who did come on our podcast and did say the Eagles were going to win, he was spooked. There was just a pervasive feeling that analysis no longer mattered with the Chiefs. Like that they were almost like a supernatural entity. And like we were never going to understand it, but it was like a law of nature that the Chiefs were just going to somehow win.
They're just going to find a way, yeah.
Because that's what they had done nonstop for 3 years. And they were worse than ever this year, and they were better than ever, though, also, somehow. Like, this was the first year even last year, where they went, 10-7, I think 11-6. And I don't think they ever felt as truly vulnerable last year as they did this year. And yet they went 15-1 in games where they tried. But that's why you couldn't do it. It was almost like you could no longer believe reality because of how much just success the Chiefs had beating the odds. And I don't know where I was going with that.
Didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out at all. So I mean, is this like they have really, 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 really serious issues. Like they're getting a little older on defense. Travis Kelce, I don't know, man. We'll talk about Travis Kelce in a second. But such major concerns in the skill core, some concerns in the offensive line. If it's just another pretty quick minor retooling, or the Chiefs looking at more of a rebuild, of course, being like maybe they won't host a playoff game, like they're going to make the playoffs. But how serious it seems so crazy to talk about because they go 15-2. But how serious do we think the Chiefs' problems actually are? Who wants to field this one?
It's weird because they were the problems were so evident and they're kind of hard to fix in that they're not a team that's flush with cap space. They're obviously not going to have great draft capital because they're going to be in the Super Bowl or close to it every year. But
it's the same Patriots problem. Everyone's like, why does Bill Belichick draft a bust every year? It's because they're at 31 or 32, and you're either taking a guy who's not a first rounder or you're really reaching for someone that you secretly think's a first rounder. And spoiler alert, they're not a first rounder.
Cole Strange never is. He never turns out to be a first rounder.
Nope.
So they've got a lot of it's a lot of issues that have piled up. It's not like put in a left tackle and this team is fixed. They just picked on our left tackle, or what was our left guard playing left tackle. We just need one more receiver. They have fundamental changes that can't be changed by one individual player, even if that player is a big hit. Maybe the exception could be that if they really hit on a receiver. I think Worthy has a future as more than just a gadget player. He really showed down the stretch
Denny
that he can be a difference maker. But he's not enough, clearly. And they're going to lose Travis Kelce within the next year. They already lost Travis Kelce at this point. He's not.
I honestly think he might retire. I mean,
yeah.
It's
time.
It is time. you know how it's especially over. It's because he did do it in the divisional round. He's like, I'm back doing my thing. It's the playoff. It's playoff Kelce. And then just no. Gone. 2 games. It was not playoff. It was not playoff Kelce. It was not Travis Kelce time.
The magic is gone. Like that whole thing where he doesn't run a route, he just sort of slinks around. That
weird.
It doesn't. I mean, it worked for a long time, and it worked really well, efficiency wise and production wise. But you saw it just collapse against the Eagles. Like you can't do that against a team that's actually good. You know?
Yeah, it's like if you're in this case Vic Fangio, you're like, hey, does anyone in the locker room run a 4.9 or slower? You're going to be on Kelce. It's like it's not even that he's sort of lost some of that magic, which he has. It's also that he's lost enough that he's not even really a decoy anymore. You can't be like, oh, defenses have to commit to contain Kelce. Put 2 or 3 defenders eyeing him up at all times, and that frees up space for the rest of the guys. He's not even that good anymore. At least he wasn't for basically the entire season outside of the opening round of the playoffs, their opening round of the playoffs. So, like, what do you have left
preseason game against the Texans too? It's like whatever, like working. Yeah.
So, like, what do you have left at that point? He's just like Zach Ertz, which is fine. Like, he can be a useful contributor, but they're still trying to, in part, build the playing around out of him, and that is so far from what you need to do with what his skill set is.
I wrote in my season-ending blurb on Travis Kelce. So I said, guy might retire. Like, because be frank, he probably should retire. But I mean, there hasn't been any real indication of that yet. If he does come back, I said probably still a top 8 tight end 1. Is that scan is true?
No, it absolutely is because he's locked in for 120 targets. Like where can? Yeah, he is. By the way,
he could just become like a third down player. I don't know.
Kelce, I just looked it up. Dead last in ESPN's open score among tight ends. Dead last.
Yeah, I have. Dead? Yeah. He was down there. He was hanging out with Kyle Pitts late in the season. It was his worst season career wise by yards per route run, yards per target, PFF receiving grade. Almost ESPN open score. It doesn't go back to like his first and second year. Probably his worst season ESPN open score, worst season ESPN Yak score, everything. There was not a metric in which he didn't look not only worse, but some of them he looked like he had really fallen off to the point where, like I said, I think he's like Zach Ertz or like late career Greg Olsen. We're like, those guys can still contribute. But I do think maybe to your point, Pat, I probably still think it's fair to rank him as a top 8 tight end. Would it shock me if by the end of the year, Rashee Rice has come back and it's just very clear what the team needs to do to be successful, and that is not throw to Travis Kelce? I think that's, given the way his stats are all trending, it seems possible that like we have not only seen his peak, but we are years and years removed from him.
He was behind Pat Freiermuth and Mike Gesicki in yards per out run on PFF.
That's amazing because Mike Gesicki is like legendarily inefficient.
He is. So I wouldn't be shocked if he retired. He's also, he's got some motivation to retire.
The thing is, though, if you're Kelce, you are just telling yourself like, what the hell? We'll just win the next Super Bowl because probably will. So you can tell yourself that going out on a high note is 12 months away.
Or it would be. Yeah, I mean, it would be really. They showed him on the sideline with his unfortunate new haircut. By the way,
Okay, time out.
Yeah, we need to talk about it.
What's going on here?
I mean,
I saw you go, Denny.
No, I mean, it looks like he grew it out. Someone told hey, you should grow your hair out. And then they're like, we're going to part it in the middle, and you're going to look like you're at a Beatles concert in 1967.
He wishes. Like that wasn't no mop top. I don't know what that was.
I don't know, man. It doesn't look great. What else?
It's not working. To be frank, that is kind of when I knew the game was over. Like,
yeah, right. When I saw his pregame outfit, he looked like he was going, to a Saturday Night Fever club. With the hair and the facial hair, I was like, oh man, it's over. Like this guy's completely washed.
Like, Travis, you got to stop trying to go blow for blow with Taylor. Like it's not going to happen. Like even if you have her team working with you, it's not going. You've got a style and an aesthetic that you could hit hard. Don't let them talk you into whatever that was. It's not working, and it's going to be counterproductive in the long run. Not working at all.
No, I mean,
just
just
say something actually real about Kelce, by the way.
The what?
You were going to say something real about Kelce.
Was I? No, I just was fixated on his hair.
I mean, that was stunning. That was a jaw dropper. Not as big of a jaw dropper as the score bug. I mean, come on, man. We're not listen, trying times in America. We're not going back 30 years in score bug technology.
Is that what they did?
No, I don't know. What was it? What was that?
I literally saw someone tweeted. I wish I had the tweet in front of me that they remade it in Microsoft Excel because they're very square, blocky with just matte, no variation in color. So you can just be block, number, background fill, green, block, number, background fill, red, done. And it looked stunningly similar.
They went minimalist, and I tend to like that. Okay. I think maybe we should think about bringing back the score bug that was in the top left corner of the screen back in the day. I like that.
It was
maybe I'm just a boomer on that issue. I will say that the weird empty New Orleans Bourbon Street graphic that they had behind Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady was very off-putting. I just felt put off the whole time.
It was very, very, very.
It's the worst thing I've seen on TV.
Let's just be real. Come on, it's the worst thing I've ever seen on broadcast. And Fox, they generally do a good broadcast. They do a lot of innovation for innovation's sake, though. Yeah. And the score bug. Listen, I don't know whose idea this is. No one's upset. No one's mad. Right? No one's mad. But we can't do that again.
But what's his name? Tell me his name.
But we cannot do. Man, we got to do a whole season of that. It's I might have to stop watching football.
I've never seen that channel anyways. I only watch the number one channel. So
that's good for you.
The Bourbon Street backdrop was even more haunting. That was just haunting.
Well,
she was Brady. Whatever's going on with Brady,
it looked like the zombie apocalypse happened on Bourbon Street, and there were no people there.
There were. It was very, very, very bizarre. Before we move on to the Super Bowl, Denny, Xavier Worthy. 8 straight games of at least 5 catches to end the year. He is super nuking constantly in the second half of the Super Bowl. They got the deep connection going just in time for the revenge tour, is what I tweeted. They're wrecking this league next year. What are your thoughts on Xavier Worthy, who you thought was bad? I
confronted NFL Network's Greg Rosenthal about his Worthy take. That really wasn't his take, I guess, but oh no, that was I implanted the Bryce Young take. That wasn't his take. But anyway, he was right, obviously, on Worthy. Who could have seen that coming? I'm totally wrong, I guess. And that's that. He's one of the worst yards per route run of the season, but he's really good.
It's almost like he was learning the NFL game. And
I know. Yeah, I do forget that guys can improve.
What are your thoughts on Worthy? I mean, could he be an outside wide receiver 1 next year? So much of everything with the Chiefs revolves now around Rashee Rice's knee, which was not a normal knee injury. It was kind of like an ACL plus from what I remember. Could Xavier Worthy make a stealth attack on wide receiver 1 status?
I mean, I think it's not impossible. Looking at his college profile, he wasn't, we talked about him, especially midseason, as he's really they're treating him kind of like this gimmicky player. It's not really what he was in college. He occupied a number of different roles throughout his time at Texas, and we saw his role evolve in his first year, albeit in a strange way, in that he was the speedster drafted to unlock the deep ball. And really, they just had to give up on that. His ADOT in the first 10 games was 12, which isn't extremely high, but A, for the Chiefs, and just B, for a player in general, it's above average. For the Chiefs, it was really high, frankly, given what they were trying to do. And he just was not earning targets on those types of routes. And then over the second half of the year, they just consumed him into the check down machine that is the offense. But he actually fit in relatively well with that. And I think maybe that's the big limitation for him breaking into wide receiver 1 status. And maybe that's frankly, is a limitation of the entire Chiefs offense, is that until the second half of the Super Bowl, a completely meaningless half of football, frankly, he was really unable to get that type of deep ball going. And I thought that's what he was supposed to do.
They had tried a lot. Well, it was the weird thing about Xavier Worthy at Texas is that one year he's the deep ball guy. Then one year he was the short area guy. The final year they finally tried to split the difference. I kind of think the Chiefs just like speed ran that entire arc in one season, and then next year we might just get really good all around usage. Because I mean, they were really close on a lot of these deep balls this year, but he was making so many boneheaded mistakes. He was 4 of 18 on 20+ yard targets, didn't he? He caught 4 of 18,
and a lot of those, he was a step out of bounds. Never really separated, and that's part of my Worthy argument was that his open score was really.
I don't know. I've never really separated. Seems.
I'm not grinding film. I'm just looking at the dots, and the dots are not separating when the ball is going to them. So, I know this is going to sound like cope and passive aggressive, and maybe it is. It is it actually is. But with Mahomes, Worthy can get away with it.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, also, I feel like you should like this turn of events because anyone who gets a target farther than 6 yards downfield, you're like, get him out of here. We don't like him. And then they brought Xavier Worthy into the type of offense that you've been really a proponent of for fantasy purposes. I'll say, not for real life purposes as much as I think we can all agree that like deep balls completed are pretty fun, but from a fantasy perspective. You've been sort of at the forefront of like, just give me the guy who gets free targets 6 yards downfield or less. And that's ultimately what they chose / had to do with him.
I will say, we've talked about quarterbacks who, who their coaches say, please, man, you just got to start throwing it downfield. The Giants begged Daniel Jones to do this for years. I really think the Chiefs coaches have to start begging Mahomes, just let it rip, man. Just throw it. You got to throw it sometimes. Got to throw it downfield. Like, I know you don't like your interception numbers to go up or whatever, but
I don't think this is Mahomes driven, to be honest.
Just try it. Just try it. I mean, we don't even.
I think they were probably doing the opposite. I don't think it was Mahomes who decided he's never throwing deep.
That's on him, man. That's on him. He makes the call. He makes the call. That throw in that non-throw downfield in the Super Bowl that Kyle just referenced. That's on him.
Well, it was probably because that one probably was going to be a pick.
Throw it.
It's okay to throw a pick every now and then.
Yeah,
he threw a lot of picks this year.
You're like the number one proponent of just throwing the ball as far as you can.
I am, and I know that Mahomes does that when the situation allows. It just has not allowed that for like several years now.
He needs something.
I think he's probably dying inside, not being able to do it. To be honest,
I know you can do it. I promise. Will Levis did it so many times this year. Triple covered Calvin Ridley, and he just chucked it to him.
You just throw it high and far, and hope that your receiver comes down with it. Now, will it happen a lot? No.
He literally does. He's been doing this nonstop for like 2.5 years, and it was always to like Mecole Hardman and Justin Watson, and then it's watching his beautiful deep ball being shot out of the air like a dove.
It's a great, yes, it is a great deep ball. You're right.
Like I really don't think this has anything to do with Mahomes.
I'd like to see it sometimes.
Well, he would like someone who can actually do it.
Oh no! Don't give me that stuff. No,
don't give me that stuff. You just told me the deep threat was the worst separator in the NFL. What's he supposed to do exactly?
It doesn't. No, that doesn't matter. Look, Anthony Richardson let it rip to Alec Pierce in triple coverage. Like
Alec Pierce would have seriously, not even exaggerating, had 1,200 yards. He would have had Deshaun Jackson season, and you know that. Not even a joke. He would have been Deshaun Jackson on the Chiefs. Like this is like not even up for debate.
Actually, you might be.
The Chiefs have the fastest player alive, and you're like, Alex Pierce would have gone for 1,200 yards.
Yeah, like you really don't think that?
Well,
I mean, I guess actually play the role. Xavier Worthy, we just went over. Couldn't play the role yet. Yeah, that's like the one thing Alec Pierce is good at.
I don't know. That's like
and you can do that with Anthony Richardson. What do you think he's doing with Mahomes?
I don't know. 1,200 yards seems like a pretty high number.
So Deshaun, he would have like 57 catches for like 1,157 yards is what he would have had on the Chiefs. Not a joke,
seems
folks.
Pretty high.
I'm not kidding around.
Whatever. Look, I've heard of like functional speed versus like 40 times speed. I think that there's a gap between those two for Xavier Worthy because really, I mean, in theory, this is what we thought. We thought, oh, okay, Worthy's just going to catch like 10 or 12 huge, like 80-yard shots from Mahomes this year.
He will next year.
And but he was never open on those balls. So I don't know.
Well, he was, then he would just go out of bounds for some reason. We'll be back in a minute to talk about the team that actually won this game right after this. The Premier League returns this weekend as Everton attempts to win its 4th straight match when they face Palace. Coverage begins Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. For the uninitiated, Palace is, of course, Crystal Palace. But if you actually watch the PL, as it's known, you just say Palace. Am I right? Denny, am I right?
Write that down, Denny.
You're
Write that
right.
down. We're going to need this.
Denny, what? Denny,
The
keep in mind, this is not a trick question. Genuinely not a trick question. What town do you think Crystal Palace plays in?
Abu Dhabi.
No. This is the English Premier League.
Oh, English. Birmingham.
The joke was that it was so obvious. No, London. They're one of the. You always said you like London in the Premier League.
Man,
yeah, they're London.
Famous.
Yeah, they're London.
I blew it.
They're London.
London, of course. I'm big into the London soccer scene.
You are big into the London soccer. We're big into the Eagles, except we didn't even talk about them for 30 minutes because maybe we should have done that. But it just felt like this is
late now.
This is a Chiefs thing. It's a Chiefs thing. The Super Bowl. They're one of those teams where what they do is always most notable. The Eagles. Did the Eagles strike you as a dynasty in the making? To me, they really don't because of just how elaborate the offense is. Like, just feel like a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that need to go right in the offense. They did splendidly this year, of course. But are there any counter takes here? They're already, of course, a mini dynasty, 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. But they're not going to be like anyone's idea of like a juggernaut Super Bowl favorite next year, which is kind of what you would be if you were a dynasty. What do you guys think? Counter takes here on the Eagles.
I feel like their offense is almost like the opposite of elaborate. And it's like, oh, we have the best offensive line, the best running back, the best wide receiver too. And
it's elaborate in that if one part of the game's off, like Saquon getting shut down, that could have been like a complete nightmare. Like, it's actually astonishing the Chiefs controlled Saquon to the degree they did, and the Eagles were still able to pull that out. Literally like 2 weeks ago, we're like, man, I don't know if the Eagles fall behind 10-0, can they win? That's kind of what I mean by elaborate.
That was not correct. That's on me. I'll take that on. That was my thought was that the Eagles are just front
because it
runners.
was correct. Yeah.
No,
I wish you.
I'm
with Denny here.
No, it's just not true. They were down against the Ravens. They came back. This passing game was really good. And there's nothing. I have some stats to share with you if you'd like.
Time out. Passing game's so good. AJ Brown was like plea for help for all of December, like national television.
Well, that's because look, a receiver wants volume. He doesn't care about anything else. He just wants volume of targets. And that's what not what they were getting. They threw so few times. But Jalen Hurts, can I share with you my numbers?
Please.
Oh, please.
Okay. In 2024, Jalen Hurts 7.5% over his expected completion rate led the league. Okay. Since the start of the 2022 season, Pat will love this one. Only Geno Smith has a higher completion rate over expected.
Fakes that. We ain't got any real ones.
The computers have been hacked. So this past year, Hurts was first in completion rate over expected on throws between 1 and 9 yards. He was 8th in throws between 10 and 19 yards. He wasn't so good down the field, but he only had 37 deep balls all season. So what can you do? What I'm saying here is that Jalen Hurts actually improved immensely on the short area and intermediate throws. Like, that's an area of improvement we saw big time from him from 2023 to 2024.
Well, why it happened though. I mean,
Kellen Moore?
No, Saquon. Everything's easier when the defense is terrified of Saquon Barkley.
What?
And it's
I
just
feel
like if
that's
Saquon
also partially evidence of why the fact that Saquon getting shut down actually made their life so much easier passing is because we said with Sean McVay and then again with Dan Quinn, like, these coaches are too smart to let Saquon get them. And that maybe is true in some sort of theoretical sense, but the amount of resources you have to devote to overcome both his talent and the offensive line's talent, and then the running game contributed by Jalen Hurts, makes throwing the ball so incredibly easy. To your point, having that good run game and having that good offensive line does direct the attention of the defense to the point where it makes throwing the ball quite easy. So the fact that Saquon got shut down, the offense lit it up still, is almost sort of evidence.
Well, I would not say the Eagles lit it up at all. They were 3 of 12 on third down. The Chiefs defense played phenomenally, I would say. They kept it really close for a long time. I mean, Chiefs were going 3 and out almost every series, like the ultimate stress test for a defense. and they kept it as close as they possibly could until like the red zone interception, even more in the pick six, kind of broke the Chiefs defense back. I think that was one. I didn't even think it was that explosive of a performance by the Eagles offense, to be honest.
They should have scored 50 plus. Let's be real.
Well, yeah, they should, but that's the thing. I just feel like they're not really truly that kind of offense. Is
what I mean is that I actually agree with you. The Chiefs defense, I don't think they played great, but they did play well under the circumstances. They shut down. Chris Jones apparently told Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhardt a couple of days before the game that he said, "Look, Saquon's not going for 150 here. Like, I don't care what happens. We're not doing that." So they did actually, stack the line a lot. They snuffed out the run for the most part, and I think Hurts responded well.
Hurts played really well. I wouldn't say the offense in general was like amazing in the game.
I don't know. Hurts had an EPA per play that would have led the NFL by a wide margin.
Yeah, man.
And like, if
you can say, how many? There's probably like 70 games that were like that this season, though. Like 70 individual EP efforts that would have led the league. Honestly, that's not saying as much as you think.
I mean, I guess, like, did you not? I think he played incredibly well. And when you have
Hurts played extremely well, except aside from throwing a red zone pick. It was
one really bad pick. But even with that, he had an incredible EPA. Like, if you have an EPA that would lead the NFL in the season, you probably win that game very often, an extreme number of times. Like, and that's
I just feel like the Eagles
to be that offense
is a little elaborate. Just like it's a little too like when it's all working together. But everyone knows the platonic ideal of NFL offense is the quarterback can just like take it over and do everything himself. And for as good as Jalen Hurts, like he did in this game, but again, do we need to go back in time where AJ Brown is on national television begging his quarterback to play better?
Who cares?
You don't think that's a bit of a comment on the Eagles
Romeo
offense?
Freaking Dobbs did that early in the year. I do not care what AJ Brown thinks about the passing attack.
I mean, you should.
And it wasn't because of quality of throws. It was because of the lack.
It was. It genuinely was. It genuinely.
I don't know why.
Genuinely what it was about.
I mean,
Jalen Hurts wasn't playing well. Is the only one who remembers this? He wasn't playing well before the concussion. They were getting
he just
frustrated.
wasn't putting up good counting stats because they won every game.
He was not playing well before the concussion. Again, this is why this happened. This is like something that did actually happen. I'm not like
you mean in that game?
No, they were not very explosive for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And it broke AJ Brown. It broke him.
I just think an alpha receiver, he just wants the ball 15 times a game. If he doesn't get it, it doesn't matter what else happens. He's going to be upset.
Yeah, he had 5 straight games. He was under 180 yards, 3 straight starts in December where he was not injured.
What was the record in those games?
Apparently it doesn't matter when it's Mahomes, but it matters. It's the only thing that matters.
I know. I also think Mahomes is good. Don't pay me as the Mahomes isn't good guy.
I don't think this Eagles offense is like if the defense takes a step back next year, which tends to happen. These things. I don't think the Eagles offense is like some overwhelming, unstoppable force. That's kind of what I was getting at here.
Well, and they just lost their offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore going to the Saints. So. Oh, do you think? Are you on the Kellen as a fraud?
Oh yeah, he's mega fraud.
Bandwagon?
Really? That part I easily agree with.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, it's like you show up and you let the good players do their good player things.
So where are the Eagles?
That's all done.
Where are the Eagles in points? Eagles fewer points than the Commanders, who had a rookie quarterback. Fewer points than the team that started Baker Mayfield. Fewer points than Jared Goff.
Wait a second. You're taking away
as many points as Jordan Love. That's interesting.
Well, that's something because the Packers stink.
Yeah, the Commanders are real bad. You don't want to be like the Commanders.
No, I mean the Commanders are good.
I'll say that this is a compliment. The Eagles offense to me strikes me as a little bit like a Shanahan offense. Totally different stylistically and all that. Like if you get it out of whack at all, like it takes a while to kind of get it recalibrated. We saw this at the end of last year. They didn't have Saquon, of course. Whereas still the easiest way, like they don't have a slump buster, like one man can do it all, which is still like what you really truly want. You want an NFL offense to revolve around Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson.
I agree they're not as good as the Bills, but I don't think you need – I mean, the Bills have been as good as the Bills for 3 or 4 years, and they haven't made a Super Bowl. So I do think they're not – I agree. They're not the best offense in the NFL. I don't really think they have to be the best offense. Like their defense is really good, really young, And their passing attack and the running game has basically everybody under contract for another year or two. There's not a lot that they can do to plummet. Like, they might not be as good as they were next year.
My true point, I think, what I'm actually trying to say, of course, they're a far above average offense. They're a top 5 or 6 offense. It does not strike me as a dynastic offense, though. Is kind of what.
No, I mean, I think that if they're going to be a dynasty, which, like you said, like they're like one Super Bowl appearance away from at least getting a small dynasty credit in that they'll have made it in 3 or 4 years or whatever. If they're going to be that, I think it'll look more like the Russell Wilson Seahawks did, where they were really efficient on offense. I don't know if I ever thought they were the best offense in the NFL. Like, Brady was playing then. He was a better, like he himself was a better offense than Russ ever was, as much as I freaking loved Russ those years. But they combined that with the Legion of Boom and a typically very efficient offense. And they were a small dynasty for like 6 years or whatever it was.
Man, real quick, this isn't really a discussion. The AJ Brown trade, man.
It's real bad.
I was fixating on that this morning, Denny.
Let's remember that the Titans told AJ Brown, look, we just drafted your replacement in Treylon Burks. We got you, but younger and cheaper, so you can go. Like that. Wow.
It was the ultimate Colin Cowherd. LeBron, we're good. We don't need you anymore, buddy. We got Treylon Burks.
I posted this morning. Like, at the first time, everyone immediately condemned the AJ Brown trade. And I think it's still somehow underrated for just it's one of the worst NFL moves of the 21st century. Just the stat, I forgot who tweeted it at me. Someone tweeted this at me. AJ Brown has more touchdowns in the Super Bowl over the past 3 years than Treylon Burks does in the regular season. If you want to know how poorly this trade turned out for the Titans. Yeah. So, all right, we'll be right back after this to talk some non-Super Bowl news. Watch the biggest names in sports talk, including Mike Florio, Dan Patrick, Dan Lebitard, Kyle Dvorchak, and Matthew Berry, as they cover the biggest moments on and off the field each weekday on the NBC Sports Now channel. It is now available on Peacock and free on most streaming platforms. Learn more at NBCSports.com/now. What's up? How you guys doing? Yeah, Kyle, put your name in this read. Because first off, you are. And no, yeah, it's our way of saying the Rotoworld football show is available on NBC Sports Now. You can find.
I genuinely thought you made a mistake. I was
put your name in the. I was doing this every.
Do the read again.
This was one of my things in the Super Bowl. I said your name every day.
And every time you
guess you weren't listening.
Like, oh. No, I listened to every episode. I never noticed that.
I put you in every ad read at the Super Bowl.
Thank you.
Yeah. we care about you, buddy.
I'd like to be in an ad read someday myself.
Craig Dennis Carter.
I would say watch Craig Dennis Carter and the Queen Park Rangers take on Wolverhampton Sunday morning.
Queens Park Rangers. Get over it. Come on, guys. Saints, Kellen Moore. So the good news is they got outside the Sean Payton coaching tree. They finally are moving on with their lives. The bad news is, instant mega giga fraud. Kellen Moore, no. I mean, we'll see. So Denny, you like the Kellen Moore hire? Listen, he got fired by the Cowboys. He did what he could with the Chargers for 1 year. He was kind of on the brink as a fake sharp. A little hard to say he's a fake sharp after what just transpired. How do you feel about Kellen Moore?
It is, and it could be like Kyle said, just like getting the ball to his main guys, and that tends to work, especially when your main guy.
I made fun of him for that, but it is a good trade.
get the ball to Juwan Johnson, dude. Get it to Bub Means. Get it to what was the guy? What was the guy?
Your man?
Who was the guy we were obsessed with?
Mason Tipton?
Yeah, Tipton season. If he gets it to Tipton, they're back. Now you go, Denny.
Yeah, I think it could be really good news, for like Chris Olave if he's okay from all the concussions this past year. It could be good for Alvin Kamara because generally, I forget his name. Kellen Moore is good at getting guys in space. That could work out for Kamara, who will just remain a workhorse. But of course, the one big difference is the fact that they're not going to be able to do the tush push and keep these drives going the way they did in Philadelphia, because Derek Carr is, I'm hearing in my earpiece now, yes, he's not Jalen Hurts. And he would instantly fold if he tried the tush push.
Well, do you remember he went Jalen Hurts mode one time near the end of this? Remember the play got hurt on, he went Hurts mode and
really
his body just got shattered. He suffered He injured his hand and his shoulder.
Oh yeah. So I think for fantasy purposes, it could actually work out. It can't be worse. It can't be worse than last year. I don't think.
Really?
You think?
Man,
It could imagine last year, but without the 2 good games.
Yeah.
Take away those 2 good games.
I definitely do think it could get worse. Actually, they might not.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have their quarterback even on the roster. Everyone is coming back from injury. They have no resources whatsoever. It's kind of a really, really bleak situation, actually. But I don't know. He's been pretty successful, Kellen Moore. Even with the Chargers, we need to reevaluate that Chargers season last year in light of like this Justin Herbert continuing to be deluxe Joe Flacco, or
They're also, that team was so injured at receiver. Like they were asking so much of like Jalen Guyton and Josh Palmer. I still think he did a pretty mediocre job with the Chargers. But to your point, man, he did a good job with the Eagles. Not to like, I think it's easy-ish to do a good job with the Eagles, and they have the best line, the best running back, best wide receiver room, and a really good quarterback. But other guys would falter in that situation, and he didn't. Deserve some credit for that. I do think it's, to the point you're kind of making, Pat, it feels like a doomed situation. I hate to be like instant lame duck hire, and I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I think he could end up doing a good job, and it might not matter because, like you said, they are so resource deprived on a team that is not oh, we're on the edge. If we had another resource, we could be a playoff team. If we had another resource, we could escape a top 5 pick is where they're at right now. So I just feel like the talent deficit that they're working with is not a good way to start your head coaching career.
Yeah, this job was so ugly and so unattractive that you wondered like if they were just going to have to settle for a guy who'd be there for a year or two. I think they're very lucky to get Moore, and I would guess that he'll have a lot of rope with which to work because they, like Kyle said, this is a really ugly situation. And really, but the Saints, until they completely change the way they do business, the Saints are in the business of winning 8 or 9 games, maybe sneaking into the playoffs in a bad division. That's the pinnacle of their accomplishments for the time being.
If you want to know how bad the situation is, like Cliff Kingsbury declined an interview.
Right. Right.
How dire this is. Denny, if I tell you Derek Carr has yet another restructure, he's back. It's the eve of training camp. Chris Olave has been cleared for months. Chris Olave, Derek Carr, Kellen Moore. Fell for it again award, Chris Olave, wide receiver 1. What do you think?
No, but you won't have to take him as a wide receiver 1 this time because people will be freaked out. So I actually think that he'll be devalued compared to last summer. Maybe altogether forgotten as far as like the top 15 receivers go. Maybe he'll fall. What do you think, Kyle? Top 20, maybe off the board. Maybe you're looking
at receiver overall.
Oh no, receiver.
Yeah, I don't even know if he'll go top 20. Like he's not in the like Kyle Pitts level of flame out failure, but he is in that level of I think fantasy managers are going to be pretty fed up with not getting the big win from him yet.
I mean, 4th round pick on Chris Olave. Does this sound crazy?
Well,
no, I think he'll go after. I don't even know if he'll go 48th overall. I don't even know if he'll go that high. It's probably right around there. I would take.
If I know one thing about fantasy managers is that they love to fall for it again.
I love to
fall for it again. I don't like that you're right,
but I'll say that taking Chris Olave in the 4th or 5th round feels a lot better than taking him at the top of the 2nd round like I did this past year.
I'll say all the metrics that aren't all the metrics that are not fantasy points have always said he's very good. What's going on there? No way to know. There's no way to understand why every metric that doesn't help me is really likes Chris Olave. Like all the stuff about receiver separation and target earning and being able to do that a little farther downfield, all that says he's really good. And yet I finish 11th place every year.
He did. The head injuries is the main concern, of course, by far. He did seem to have successive coaching staffs that just like weren't interested in like making him like Derek Carr also just like not interested in forcing him the ball, which a lot of times is a major red flag. You think it's the coaching staff and you find out, oh no, it's just because he doesn't do the things that like coaching staffs just in general want. But Kellen, if we knew we were getting 17 games out of Chris Olave, then I'd be like, all right, 3rd round pick, Chris Olave. Let's get it trending. Who's with me?
Let's get it trending, folks.
I'll get it trending. I'm going to fall for it again.
I mean, we are forgetting about the guy I saw come down the escalator at the Radio Row, which
So
was
where are you going with this?
Rashid Shaheed came
That's
down the
right.
escalator, and folks cheered. They loved it.
They did.
They loved their Rashid, and so we're kind of forgetting about him. Look, could Shaheed be the wide receiver 1 in New Orleans as far as fantasy points go next year? Of course.
What was his injury? He's on my dynasty
This is a
team.
knee.
Oh God, was it? I was like, let's say it was his
I mean,
shoulder.
He's a guy. It doesn't make much sense, but he actually is quite a target commander. And I refused to buy into it last summer, and I was a fool for that.
You mentioned seeing Rashid Shaheed. So Radio Row, you just like can't help but like constantly run into people. This is not a joke. By far, my most embarrassing running into someone interaction was I don't think Denny, I think I did tell you this. Before the show, Greg Rosenthal said he does the same thing, by the way. I like to brush my teeth. I like to feel fresh when I'm going to be talking to people. I like to brush my teeth. But, we're at a convention center. You have to do this, of course, in a public restroom. And I'm feeling, very neurotic, brushing my teeth in the New Orleans Convention Center restroom. And coming up, inches away from me to wash his hands while I'm brushing my teeth. This is not a joke, was Myles Garrett. I'm just here as a blogger brushing my teeth. There's one of the baddest humans alive next to me. Like, what is this kid doing brushing his teeth?
Yeah. What are you doing, man?
First you got to imagine, like, you turn over and you're like, oh, there's a solid block of iron right next to me. And then you look 2 feet up into the air and you're like, oh my, it's Myles Garrett.
I know. So that was humbling.
Well, and then another time you said Greg Olsen was standing next to you while you were brushing your teeth.
No, that he was just in the bathroom. I don't think I was brushing my teeth that time. He seemed like a very delightful.
Constantly brushing your teeth.
We talked for a long time in the bathroom.
I take the opposite approach where I will eat all the food that I can get my hands on right before we go on.
Garlic.
You do. I was
raw
begging you not to eat Greek food.
Pat was actually telling. He's like, you don't want to eat. Trust me. Please listen to me. You don't.
I was trusting. I was
like, I'm gonna eat even more.
It was no joke hitting Denny with a trust me. Like,
yeah, you did. And I said,
is there extra onions on this gyro? The whole thing, mostly onions, frankly.
I just took a raw onion and just ate it. Period.
I was begging Denny not to.
The tzatziki never stood a chance.
No.
I did some research for this show 30 seconds ago. Early underdog ADP for Chris Olave, 57. That is late 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing my math right. Got a feeling
that's climbing.
That's climbing. I know
that's the low point. Yep.
I understand the fell forward again award dynamics, and we are ready to buy. But for now, that is a very palatable price. I would draft him a lot at the end of the 5th. Middle of the 5th, probably.
Chris Crane. Pat Crane is just sitting on the floor right now with his head on a nice pillow, maybe puffing a cigarette, just thinking about how do we approach the Olave problem. How do we approach the Olave problem? We got to figure this out. We got to figure out if Ken Dorsey to the Cowboys means anything. Does it?
I don't know. I mean, we know that Ken Dorsey lost his job because Tyler Bass missed a field goal. But that beyond that, I mean, it's still going to be Schottenheimer calling the plays, right?
Will it? I think
Ken
honestly
Dorsey's taking like an offensive assistant role. I don't think they have.
He is. I think he's kind of there though, is the play caller in waiting. I think it's kind of an acknowledgement, like, we don't really know if Shoddy should be doing this kind of hire.
I can see that, sure.
I think it is kind of like a backup, like battery hire, like like when you're like your PC is like a backup battery. I think it's kind of like that.
He's a bulk reliever. He's a bulk reliever.
Yes, I could see him.
You're calling plays from week 8 on.
Yes, I could see him bulk relieving Shoddy's play calling duties like early in the season.
I feel like the thing is though, we saw with Schottenheimer, the thing was he was like, I'm going to let Russ cook. And then Russ got figured out. And he was like, that sucks. Guess our season's over 10 weeks in. And like, that's what people think of as Ken Dorsey is like, he was more pass heavy than the man who preceded him in Joe Brady. And people were like, I get that you're passing with Josh Allen, but I don't like the way that you do it. Fired instantly. And it's like a very similar archetype of what people saw in them was not that they didn't understand the broad structures of passing with your good quarterback. It was they didn't do the micro stuff very well. And so it is just a very similar and fittingly Cowboys hire to just like hire a similar-ish guy to Schottenheimer in the way people I think view them.
Should we just talk about Debo on Thursday, by the way? Let's talk about Debo on Thursday.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'd like to really explore that one. See where
In the meantime, I wrote about Debo. I wrote about trade landing spots. You can check that out somewhere on the site. Click around.
Oh, hell yeah. We'll talk about that on Thursday. Denny, tell the people. Commander's Palace, New Orleans institution. We had dinner there. Who almost took your life as we were entering the restaurant?
Excuse me?
Well, I almost got decked. What would the kids call it in Madden? Truck sticked.
It was
truck sticked. You almost got truck sticked.
I almost got truck sticked by Gronk.
What? Not a joke.
Yeah. So me and Drew Densig and Pat, we get out. Did we walk or did we get out of the car?
We're remembering very little of this event.
It was not. This was not an alcohol thing. It was confusing because it felt like we got out of a car. We took the trolley and then
we took the trolley.
Yeah.
Yes, right. So we're right next to the entrance. This huge Escalade pulls up, and I feel this guy like breeze past me, kind of bump me in the back, and I was like, "What the hell?" And I turn around. And it's Rob Gronkowski. I'm just talking about flying up the stairs,
being ushered in like a dignitary.
Yeah, swept in like the president, going into the decision room. And we never saw him again.
We were so confused and baffled. We only had time to quickly confirm. Like Gronk is the kind of thing when you see him in person, like there's no mistaking who it is.
Also, he's so big. I don't understand how
stunningly huge.
I don't understand how he didn't score a touchdown every time he touched the ball.
He basically did.
He was single biggest people I've ever seen at Radio Row, which is saying a lot.
I really hope there was a moment in there where, unbeknownst to Denny, it's Gronk, bumps into him, just barely breeze, and Denny turns around, "Hey, mister, watch where you're going." And then he has to do the it's another man made of just a solid block of wood. He's just there lumbering over me like an oak tree. Watch where you're going, because I wanted your autograph is what I was going to say. Have a good night, Mr. Gronkowski, sir.
Well, Denny has pending litigation against News Corp since Gronk lightly breezed into him.
I'm hurt. I'm hurt. What can I say?
Denny took off his neck brace for this show. No, Gronk. He wasn't being rude.
He did nothing wrong.
He did do nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong. Perfect analysis of Super Bowl LIX 59, next year's Super Bowl 60. So let's just start talking about Super Bowl 60 tomorrow, because it's going to be the Chiefs again. Everyone knows. We're going to start previewing Super Bowl 60 tomorrow.
Yeah, imagine the Chiefs if they're good. Like, they're going to be so good when they're good. If they're good when they're bad, like, geez, they're going to be great when they're good.
Really, really, really good point. Lots of really good points from Kyle Dvorchak and Denny Carter. Thank you so much for listening to us all season, all last week. So much good. Free agency is here in, like, not even kidding, like 4 weeks. So we're going to have so much good stuff for you this offseason. For Kyle, man, I've been botching anything lately. For Kyle, for Denny, I'm Pat. We'll be back with you on Thursday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.